Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Charger 360, telling the stories of the University of New Haven. I'm J.W. Stewart, joined by Bruce Barber, and we're very pleased to have our guest today, Susan Campbell, who teaches in our journalism department. Susan, it's great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great. I'm glad you're here. I know Bruce has been trying to get you on the program for a while, so we're glad you're here.
Oh, this is a big get. Let me tell you
This is huge.
something.
Yeah. You're on a roll with some of the guests you've lined up recently.
Oh, I'm on fire. It's incredible.
Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga was here.
Sure.
Yeah. Campbell. It's so funny the way your students call you Campbell.
Yeah.
What is the origin story on that? I want to know.
No, that's okay. I am not an academic by training. I grew up in a newsroom.
Yep.
And can we curse on this? I won't. In a newsroom, I was always bad word Campbell, like Campbell. And so I answered to Campbell. I forgot I had a first name. And then when I started teaching here, it felt weird to be called Susan because I am so much older than these students. So I said, just call me Campbell, which is a real leap for some of the students. It's professor, it's doctor. I am not a doctor. So it's Campbell. And I take great joy in hearing them call me that.
And that's great. So now I know that story, and I keep saying this is what is awesome to me about the University of New Haven, is that we are people who have worked in our businesses for a long time, but we all seem to really enjoy, like saying kind of like, well, you're still doing it. I guess I'm still doing it.
If we're doing TV, I guess we're still doing it. Right?
This counts.
But it's the fun part is really talking to the next generation that's going to kind of pick up the mantle.
But don't you find that this isn't that different from what you were doing? I mean, you're taking information and trying to package it in such a way that it can move or teach something, and so it's not a big leap.
No, I think we all come from a storytelling background, and the best way to communicate and get the students to learn, I think, is through storytelling. Yeah. So tell us, speaking of storytelling, tell us the story about you and your path here to the University of New Haven.
Oh. It's not interesting.
You're a storyteller. Make it interesting.
I'm going to have to lie a little to boost it up.
You're a tough professor. Professor
I don't
Stewart.
have to. How about that? So I worked most recently at the Hartford Courant for 100 years, and I quit one day. I got mad, and I quit. I was in my 50s in a melted job market with no job. And I had been an adjunct professor within the state system. So I was I was working a part-time job and trying to find real work. And I was looking to pick up some adjunct positions. This should tell you how closely I read emails. I came to the University of New Haven thinking I'm applying for an adjunct position. But they had me do a guest lecture, and I had to answer questions. And I remember thinking, boy, you guys take this really seriously. I was just going to teach a class. And then I went to talk to the then department chair, and we had a nice talk with him. And I'm literally pushing up out of the chair, and he said, what would I have to do to get you to work here full time? Ask me nicely. So evidently, I was applying for this position and didn't even know it. So that's awesome on my part. And I started 2 weeks later. As a full-time professor. I know that's probably not a story we want to share with everyone, but we did.
And then we're so lucky to have you. And so what ends up happening is me over at the radio station, I keep, actually when I applied to be the general manager, you were in on, the group that was speaking with me, and I was really nervous about coming to I'm like, what are you bringing a shock jock to this campus for? A reformed shock jock, but you were like, come on, I think you really said, if you're nervous about teaching, we will teach you to teach. And what I find here, this is true in our department, in the communication department, it's a real supportive environment of faculty working together. And then it's a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true, but we really care about our students as well.
Yeah, it is a cliche, but it is true.
And then, and with that in mind, what I love watching is what you've done with, not you, actually, it's you and the students have done with the Charger Bulletin, our campus paper.
That's the
Talk
students.
about that, yeah.
I would love to take full credit for that, but I can take maybe 10%. When I first came on campus, there was a Charger Bulletin, which honestly, all due respect to the students who were working on it, they didn't have a journalist as an advisor. And I asked to be that and was told, no, 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 we're just going to keep it the way it is. Okay, well, I'm new. Okay. And then about a year and a half later, the two editors, top editors at the Charger Bulletin said, would you like to be our, and they didn't get advisor out. And it was like, yes, I would love that. And I mean, these two students were incredible. One of the students started Charger Bulletin News. The other student was this great photographer, and it's just grown from there. It really has been me standing off to the side going, great idea.
Yeah.
I wish I'd
I'm really good at that too.
Oh, yeah,
you do that.
I have thought about that. Or I
Yeah.
used to have an office right by the editor's office over on Rudin above the radio station. And, you know, the walls are paper thin, and I could hear them talking like there would be an ethical issue, and they would be discussing solutions. And they'd come up with an idea, come around, and invariably it was like, that's a great idea. You know, that's exactly legal and ethical, way to go. So it's the students.
Yeah, and it's great. We're in this state-of-the-art TV studio now, and you have now the Charger Bulletin newsroom is right here in the
right
Bergamy
upstairs.
Center for Science, Technology, and
Yeah.
Innovation.
Yeah, that's a big word. Or a big
But the
title.
vibe in there is great because it is, you know, and you said the students are in there like, they pull the all-nighter before they go to
There
press.
are clothes in
and-
there. I have questions. There are pillows in there. There's a worst-smelling couch ever in there. But it's a community, as you know. Something like a newspaper or a journalism endeavor works better if there's a collegial, like we have in our department. Like, we're all in this together. We're going to goof up, but it's all practice till we get it right. And we have a lot of cross-pollination between Charger Bulletin News, Charger Bulletin, our long-form journalism website, Horseshoe, that's 2 years old now. And it's just great to watch the students. It's awesome.
So one student can do all three if he
Yeah,
or she wants?
they can.
Do they have to be journalism students?
No, they don't. I would say to work in Charger Bulletin News on the broadcast, you really have to have at least a little bit of an understanding of what knob to turn. But we'll take anyone. In fact, we encourage people from outside the communication department because we want other perspectives. We want the CJ majors, you know, we want the marine biology majors. So we call ourselves the land of broken toys. We'll take you.
Yeah.
You're fine. You'll be great.
And that's very much the way, you know, I try to run the radio station, which is, you're exactly right, try to be 10%
Yeah.
off over there,
Yeah.
but you do it to the students. Just let them take
Yeah.
ownership of it. So key.
And they do too, and it's so impressive to watch because I've seen students who come in, and it's intimidating to walk into a room where you know there's already community ongoing, even if you've been told you are absolutely welcome. And what I give credit to our students, radio, television, podcasts, newspaper, websites, is that once they learn something, they really want to turn around and teach someone. So they're very good mentors. And there too, you know, we as advisors or as station managers, we're standing off to the side going, good job.
Yeah, that's right. And I always, when I'm meeting with a student who's thinking about getting involved with the radio station, I always say, you know, we try to run it on kind of 3 levels. You know, there's a club component to it, community. There's an educational component as well, which is I teach independent studies. I work one-on-one with students interested in broadcasting and podcasting. And then we actually, and you do this too with the Charger Bulletin, we have an experiential component where you are actually paid to do your role. We have a station manager, music director, program director. So they're actually getting a little on-the-job training before they even hit the job market.
You want them to be able to walk out of here and step into any newsroom or any media organization and hit the ground running. You want them to know what they're doing.
You mentioned there are so many opportunities for students here at the University of New Haven across various platforms of communication. Why is the Charger Bulletin newspaper still important, considering newspapers in our society, unfortunately, a lot of them have gone out of business?
They have gone out of business, but there will always be a job market for people who can take a lot of information, distill it to, you know, not a soundbite, but distill it down to where people can understand it. So the newspaper is important because if you're not going to step out of here, and we do have people at the New York Times and the Boston Globe, and we have editors who have started here with Hearst. If you're not going to step into a newspaper, you may step into a website, but whatever job you get in communication, you're going to have to use those same skills. You're going to work on a deadline, you're going to have to solve challenges, you're going to have to problem solve quickly, and they can learn all that in Charger Bulletin.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we're talking to prospective students, I tell the parents it's a good time to be a communication major for exactly the reasons that you're talking about, is that any business from a Fortune 500 down to a mom and pop business needs someone who can do their social media, that can produce audio, video, that can synthesize ideas. So there's practical applications for a communication degree in a lot of different areas.
We try to seed as much as possible. There's a student, she's not one of mine, I'm not her advisor, but she's a wonderful writer, and she needed a writing credit to graduate. So she shows up in what is essentially the hardest writing course we offer in journalism, and she writes like a dream. But she needs just a few more credits. I eat tacos at Pica Chica in Clinton. Pica Chica needs someone on their social media. So we've created an independent study for her. I don't know how many hours, but she's already met with the owner, already had the burritos. And so, she'll probably get burritos for life. But
and I should say, this episode of Charger 360 is brought to you by Pica Chica.
Pica Chica.
Yes.
If you haven't gone, go.
If you haven't
great.
gone, go.
Yeah, it's a freebie. But it's one way that this is real world, real-time experience that she's gaining, that you can learn a lot in a classroom, but you really need to get your hands on it, which is a big part of our departments.
I think it's one of the great things about University of New Haven overall. Most departments do rely on experiential education, learning by doing. It is the best way to learn. Yeah. When they're in the classroom, what are you teaching them with regard to journalism in the classroom?
That it's important, that you must act ethically, that you find the right sources and you do not publish innuendo or rumor. I won't tell you what I told the class this morning, it had a bad word in it, but write the blank out of it. Mm-hmm. They have their final project due in this interpretive and editorial writing, the top level, the most challenging writing class we teach right now. And they're nervous about it, and what's experiential or what's interpretive writing, and we've gone over this, so now you have something to do at 11:59 on Saturday. It's time to stop playing with it. So what I'm hoping I'm teaching them is the sheer joy of discovery as you're trying to research something, and then the fun of putting it all together like a puzzle so someone else understands why is this important.
Yeah, that's incredible, because, and so I'm thinking about this now, that's what I always tell students, is to try as many things as you can within, under the umbrella of what you're studying, because it's the 4 years you spend in college is such a transformative time, right? And that's really, and I think you and I are lucky because with the Charger Bulletin and with WNHU too, the growth you see, and J-Dub, I'm sure you see this all the time, the growth you see in the students over the 4 years is just incredible, isn't it?
It is.
It is. Yeah, it's rewarding in a way I wouldn't have thought. I always enjoyed teaching. I've been an adjunct professor. I think I started in the early 2000s. So I had taught for 12 or 14 years as an adjunct before, and you don't really get to know the students. I mean, you can try, but you're swooping in, teach your class, meet for 5 minutes after, and then you're gone. This is a much different relationship. I like this better.
Yeah. In journalism, we call this burying the lead, but I'm going to brag on you here a little bit. You won a Pulitzer Prize.
Yes, I did.
Tell us about that.
Well, I was a part of a big group of people who won a Pulitzer that year. There was a terrible shooting at the lottery headquarters, and we were all dispatched to write something. At the time, I was writing a column, and I can't quote the column. God forbid I should ever quote anything I wrote. But I remember being struck by everybody knew someone who'd been hurt or killed. And that this is a small state, which is, I'm not from here, if you can probably tell by the accent, but that's what keeps me in Connecticut is my granddaughter just had her picture taken with the lieutenant governor last night. She's over the moon, isn't going to wash her hand, because that's the one who's by, so it's shook. So I wrote something about the small town nature, and now there's so many shootings that we're workplace violence. We're not numb to it, but that was part of the package. So it'll be in my obituary. I won a Pulitzer. I and half the staff at the Hartford Courant won a Pulitzer.
Yeah, but it's great to bring your experience here. I, of course, would be using it only for ego aggrandizement, but you're actually, very humble about it, but your students get to benefit from it. So,
Well,
you know.
I mean, we're all bringing decades and decades and decades of
Yes, we are.
experience in it, and you
We've
know.
been around.
So, are you going to know when to retire? They're going to have to wheel us out.
Oh, they are going to have to send in security to drag us away. Definitely.
That's a good thing, right? We enjoy being here. It's a wonderful place to work. You're treated with kindness and respect, and the students are a true joy to be around.
That's right.
accurate.
Yeah.
I know they call you Campbell. Do they call you Barber? Or can we not even say the words the students?
So Bruce,
Okay,
and it's
good.
funny you say this. You know, sometimes they wrestle with it also. You know, it's
What do I call
professor, and
them?
I'm like Bruce.
I know, to
Yeah.
be called a professor, I'm teaching a class, I got a C- in. So to be called professor just seems like
no.
we're really gilding
like,
the
huh?
lily
What?
here.
Where? No, not me.
Campbell, Susan Campbell, thank you for being
Campbell,
here.
good to
Thank
have
you
you.
so much, very much. Thank you for having me.
Susan Campbell teaches in our journalism department here at the University of New Haven. And it's that puts the wraps on another great show. Bruce, again, thanks again for getting Susan to show up today.
Oh, always a pleasure. I'm on fire.
You
What can
are,
I
you
say?
really are.
Yeah, with the
warm,
bookings.
too.
Yes,
warm.
it's very
yes,
warm.
Yeah. For Susan Campbell, for Bruce Barber, I'm J.W. Stewart. Thanks for watching Charger 360, telling the stories of the University of New Haven. We'll see you next time.